Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. Chapter 1. The Introduction. The early morning light filtered through the sheer curtains of the small apartment, casting delicate patterns on the worn wooden floor. In a kitchen that doubled as a living space, the faint smell of burnt toast mingled with the aroma of strong black coffee, creating an oddly comforting ambience. This was the home of Clara Jennings, a 32-year-old woman known to her friends and co-workers as kind-hearted and reliable. Her laughter had the power to lift moods, and her warm smile was a constant reassurance in their lives. But on this particular Tuesday, Clara didn't emerge from her morning routines. Hours ticked by as the neighbors grew increasingly worried. Her printer therapist in their weekly 8 a.m. session had announced that Clara didn't arrive. An unusual absence. As her friends began calling, panic washed over them. Had she fallen ill? Maybe an accident kept her from her routine? A haul to the police became inevitable when her closest friend, Emma, took the matter into her own hands. Driving over to check on her, she parked outside the unassuming brownstone, feeling a heavy weight settle in her stomach. As she climbed the stairs, the air grew dense with foreboding. She knocked loudly, calling Clara's name, her voice echoing back in silence. The only reply was the distant hum of the city waking up around her. As Emma's fingers brushed against the doorknob, she realized the door was ajar. Heart pounding, she pushed it open, suddenly aware that everything had changed in the span of just a few moments. This morning, marked by common routines, was about to morph into a harrowing journey, a tale of a life abruptly interrupted. The shadow of dread stirred as she stepped into the apartment, calling Clara's name once more, hoping for that familiar, reassuring voice to greet her. But within the silence lay secrets that had yet to be uncovered. Chapter 2. The Victim. Clara Jennings had once been a vibrant thread woven through the fabric of her community. She was the one who organized the quarterly neighborhood potlucks, her laughter infectious as she moved from table to table, ensuring that everyone felt included. The children adored her, peppering her with questions and inviting her to join their games, while the elderly neighbors found companionship in her visits, bringing warmth to fragile hearts. But beneath this cheerful facade lay complexest layers of longing and unfulfilled dreams. Clara pursued a degree in psychology and often spoke passionately about her aspirations to help others navigate their struggle. After graduating 3 years ago, Clara found a job as a counselor at a local mental health clinic, where she thrived in her role. Her clientele varied, and although she often listened to others' pain, many believed that Clara buried her own under the weight of compassion for others. That morning, as Emma stood in the living room, she caught sight of Clara's cluttered desk, strewn with case notes and empty coffee cups. It seemed to speak of sleepless nights devoted to her patients. The small corkboard above it was plastered with photographs. Clara at the beach with friends, a snapshot of her family during a holiday gathering, and her graduation day, where she stood proudly in her cap and gown, beaming with promise. Yet the lingering question that hung in the air was what had taken place in this sanctuary of hearse. What shadows lurked behind the cheerful images. Emma found herself drawn to the calm blue walls, now cloaked in an unsettling tension. It was as if the very paint whispered truths that no one wanted to say aloud. The police arrived shortly after, their badges gleaming under the morning light. Emma stood by the doorway, hardly present in her surroundings, grappling with an unspeakable anxiety. The uniformed figures moved purposefully, their demeanor shifting from casual observation to serious focus as they assessed the scene. Clara was more than a friend. She was a beloved part of their world. Her absence suddenly an aching void. As the investigation began, a chilling realization crept into Emma's mind. Clara's warmth had vanished, and the laughter that once filled these walls had been swallowed whole. This was no ordinary disappearance. Chapter 3. The crime scene. The police moved with methodical precision, their presence a stark contrast to the cozy warmth of Clara's home. Emma stood back, her heart racing as Officer Reynolds surveyed the small apartment, fingers sifting through the chaos with the practiced ease of someone accustomed to the worst humanity had to offer. The living room was cluttered, an unsettling testament to the life of a woman seemingly poised and organized in public. "Call in forensics," Officer Reynolds instructed without breaking his gaze from the distressing observation in front of him. The tidy illusion of Clara's life began to unravel under the harsh glare of the overhead lights. A corner of the couch was obscured by pillows, one of which bore an unusual stain that sent a shiver cascading down Emma's spine. She stepped back, her breath hitching as she tried to comprehend the gravity of the scene unfolding before her. As forensics arrived, delicate instruments replaced the officer's initial bluster. Evidence bags were unfurled, and tape was laid down to section off areas. Emma could feel the air grow thick with tension. The weight of uncertainty pressed on her chest. This was no minor incident. There were telltale signs of a violent struggle. A coffee table laid in disarray, the remnants of a toppled vase scattered across the floor like broken dreams. Emma's eyes darted to the kitchen, where the familiar scent of coffee transformed into a bitter reminder of something gone tragically awry. The coffee pot was still warm, indicating Clara had likely made it just before she vanished. Her heart sank at the thought of the routine twisted into chaos, that crucial moment of normality marred forever by the unknown. Officer Reynolds approached Emma, his face a careful mask of empathy. "I know this is hard," he began gently, "but I need you to ask some questions about Clara. Any recent changes in her life you've noticed? Anyone she might have been worried about?" Emma opened her mouth to respond, but words failed her. All she could think about was Clara's laugh, her willingness to listen, her dreams of helping others. As Officer Reynolds continued his inquiries, a nauseating awareness took root within Emma. Clara may have been surrounded by people who cared, but within the walls of her own life, shadows might have crept in too close, invisible to those who looked. Her. The crime scene became a gap in understanding, a chasm separating the person she knew from this haunting reality. Chapter 4. The early investigation. As hours slipped into the early afternoon, the once lively atmosphere of Clara's apartment transformed into a sanctuary of despair, where grief loomed large. Officer Reynolds delegated tasks to his fellow officers while forensics collected evidence, meticulously combing for any clue that could unravel the mystery of what had transpired. Emma remained a silent witness, her heart heavy with dread. The officers began to question her friends and family, piecing together a profile of Clara, trying to understand the complexities of her life. Each voice that spoke of her only filled Emma with a deeper sense of loss, but also offered small threads to grasp at fragments that might lead to the truth. Clara's supervisor at the clinic was first to arrive at the station, grief-stricken and bewildered. She was always dedicated, always there for her patients, he recounted, his voice wavering. But she seemed off recently. I noticed she'd been distracted. I thought maybe it was work stress. Emma's mind raced. Stress? Was that all? Clara had always borne her burdens with grace, but there were whispers around the clinic of challenging cases that tugged at her heartstrings. Stories so deeply personal that they risked invading her own peace. Next came Clara's family, who appeared at the police station, their eyes wide with shock, the gloss of tears barely concealed. Emma watched as they recounted memories, shared laughter from happier times, yet their expressions darkened with confusion and fear as they struggled to comprehend what was happening. They recounted a recent phone conversation where Clara had sounded anxious, speaking of a shadow looming in her thoughts that she couldn't quite articulate. Did she say anything about someone bothering her? Officer Reynolds scrutinized their responses. Clara's brother hesitated before admitting. There was this guy she met online. I didn't think much of it, but she did mention feeling uncomfortable. The room fell silent at the mention of the stranger, a cold chill wrapping around Emma's heart. The dim light in the police station felt oppressive as reality began to close in on them. A stranger who may have slipped into Clara's life unnoticed or perhaps unwelcome. As the interrogation continued, Emma felt a swell of determination. This wasn't just about uncovering the mystery of Clara's fate. It was about protecting her memory, demanding justice for the laughter that now echoed hauntingly in her mind. The early investigation had unearthed shadows, the first hints of danger lurking just beyond the surface. With each clue, strands of uncertainty began to weave tighter around Clara's memory, urging Emma onward into the darkness. Chapter 5. The Dead Ends. Days turned into a week, and as the vibrant leaves of fall began to litter the ground, Clara Jennings seemed to dissolve in the same manner her presence, fading into the tapestry of unanswered questions and unsolved mysteries. The initial urgency surrounding the investigation began to dull, with every lead leading to a dead end, each tip a bitter promise unfulfilled. Officer Reynolds and his team spent hours combing through Clara's social media accounts. They examined chats, calls, and photographs, desperate to find a clue that could illuminate the shadows enveloping her life. They found her online presence dotted with smiley faces, but no hints of the anxiety she had confided in the last few weeks. Clara had been diligent in shielding her vulnerabilities, leaving nothing but intertwined images of happiness in her digital footprint. The mention of the online stranger led to painful dead ends. Clara's family helped track down a former connection, a man named Caleb, who she had conversed with through a dating app. But when officers knocked on his door, they found only an anxious man who claimed he had blocked Clara upon realizing she was not the person she portrayed herself to be. He insisted he hadn't spoken to her in months. No concrete proof of wrongdoing, only the echo of disappointment reverberating off the walls of data and distant conversations. Meanwhile, Emma found herself grappling with her emotion. She pored over Clara's belongings, searching for anything that might provide insight. On evenings when the world turned quiet, she sifted through old photographs, tracing memories that now shimmered like mirages. Each frame carried a moment of bliss, and yet every joy felt clashed with the pressing sorrow that Clara was gone. As the investigation dragged on, an unsettling realization settled in Emma's stomach. While Clara had been the light in their lives, she had also fought her demons in silence. The fear that someone might have taken that light away loomed large, creating a cloud of dread that stifled her thoughts. In a desperate attempt to reignite the investigation, Emma organized a vigil in Clara's honor. She rallied the community, and the gathering was filled with friends and strangers alike, illuminated by flickering candles hoping to shed light on darkness. Faces turned toward the night sky, all willing to unite in remembering the vibrant woman whose laughter had echoed through their halls. In that moment, Emma saw something shift. The weight of despair began to lighten, mingled with determination. Clara's memory, a thread now woven through their collective grief, would not let go easily. With the community's support kindled, Emma resolved to push against every dead end until light cascaded once more in Clara's name. Chapter 6. The chill of early winter seeped into the air, mingling with the warm glow of neighborhood lights that punctuated the darkness. The vigil for Clara had revitalized the community's commitment to finding her. Yet despite their fervor, autumn slipped away into a dreariness that mirrored the case's stagnation. Just when it seemed the investigation would linger indefinitely in the shadows, a breakthrough arrived unexpectedly. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Officer Reynolds received a call from a neighboring precinct. A diner outside the city had surveillance footage that a waitress claimed might be pertinent. She recounted serving a woman who resembled Clara just a day or two before she disappeared. The woman was seated at a corner booth, speaking animatedly to a man whose features were shrouded by a hoodie. The waitress had thought little of it then, but her gut instinct urged her to report the encounter after reading about Clara's case. The precinct sprung into action, coordinating the extraction of the diner's security footage. The grainy images depicted Clara and the unknown man. And as the detectives studied the screen, tension crackled in the small room. Officer Reynolds leaned closer, squinting as he observed the pair. The man seemed deferential, listening intently as Clara gesticulated with enthusiasm, laughter erupting occasionally, the very essence of the woman he longed to find. Yet, the atmosphere shifted as attention focused on the man, his features slowly coming into clearer view. There was something unsettling in his posture, a predatory edge that sent a shiver down their spines. The officers noted his physique, the way he sat a little too close, leaning into her space just slightly. It accompanied Clara's bright laughter, creating a stark contrast that ignited a fresh wave of dread. "Let's get this guy identified," Officer Reynolds ordered, urgency lacing his tone. With a renewed sense of purpose, they deployed officers to visit local establishments and canvass the area surrounding the diner, eager to track down potential eyewitnesses who might have seen the pair together. While the footage sparked a flicker of hope within the team, Emma couldn't erase the gnawing anxiety that clung to her heart. Could this man be an innocent patron? Or was he the unseen force that had disrupted Clara's life? She allowed herself only a moment's reprieve before determination took hold again. Amidst the despair, this break in the case reinvigorated the quest for answers. All of Clara's friends and family could do was cling to the possibility that someone might finally be held accountable. As the officers chased down leads, Emma vowed to keep Clara's spirit alive by ensuring the truth didn't remain buried in dark corners of promise, both heavy and empowering in equal measure. Chapter 7. The Suspect. With the diner's surveillance footage in hand, the atmosphere within the precinct was charged with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Officer Reynolds gathered his team in a dimly lit conference room, replaying the footage multiple times. The man whose features were capturing increasing interest now held a life of his own on the screen, a suspect whose identity remained cloaked in ambiguity. "We need to trace the man who sat across from Clara," Reynolds stated, fixing his gaze on the team. Review all the recent patrons of the diner on that date. Find anything that matches that appearance. The sound of the pause button clicking echoed through the room as officers began combing through databases and trying to establish a timeline. Eyes fell to the grainy image of the man's intense gaze as he leaned toward Clara, making it evident that he had captured her attention. Within hours, they identified him. His name was Ryan McAllister, 29-year-old local, who had a history of minor offenses, including public intoxication and harassment complaints. He had been flagged in the department's criminal database, a name buried beneath layers of less significant cases. His friends and acquaintances recalled an odd charm mingled with a troubling intensity, adding further layers to his profile. Officer Reynolds and his partner approached Ryan's last known address, an apartment in a building riddled with neglect. The air held a grim stillness as the two stood in front, each step more grave than the last. They knocked firmly, the sound echoing through the dim hallway. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing Ryan. He wore an expression that shifted from surprise to apprehension instantly. Reynolds introduced himself, along with the purpose of their visit, and Ryan's demeanor faltered, uncertainty lingering in his eyes. Under the weight of their questions, he appeared nervous, glancing away frequently, as if measuring his responses carefully. "Did you meet Clara Jennings at the diner a week ago?" Reynolds pressed gently, but firmly. Ryan's act of casual confidence began to fray at the edges. "Yeah, I remember her." His words were cautious, yet the slight tremor in his voice didn't go unnoticed. "We talked. It was nothing, really." The officers exchanged glances, the tension palpable, as they pursued the inquiry further, steering the conversation toward that night. Ryan's responses veered between defensive evasion and fleeting vulnerability. He insisted he hadn't seen or spoken to Clara since that day at the diner. As they gathered more information, they discovered that Clara had mentioned feeling uncomfortable around him to her friends after their meeting. This revelation clouded the atmosphere as they absorbed the implications of her discomfort, something that now carried another weight entirely. As Officer Reynolds exited the building, the chill of doubt settled deeper. They had found the suspect, a name intertwined with Clara's last known moments. The lingering question now danced in the air. Would this man, cloaked in the murky shadows of uncertainty, emerge as the true embodiment of danger? Or was he simply a key to uncovering the deeper truths hidden within Clara's life? The investigation had taken a dramatic turn, pulling Emma and the detectives closer to a heart-stopping reality. Chapter 8. The Trial. The courtroom was a somber sanctuary, lined with polished wood and the palpable weight of anticipation. A hush fell over the assembled crowd as the judge entered, bringing the proceedings to order. Tension rippled through the air as Emma took her seat among family and friends, her eyes trained toward the front, where Ryan McAllister sat, flanked by his defense attorney. An expression of mingled confidence and calculated indifference plastered across his face. The trial had been set in motion after a thorough investigation culminated in enough evidence to charge Ryan with the abduction and murder of Clara Jennings. The case had attracted significant media attention, casting a spotlight on the unsettling reality of safety in the community. Emma's heart raced, a tempest of emotions bubbling just beneath the surface: grief, rage, and the unwavering determination to ensure Clara's voice resonated within those walls. As the prosecution opened its case, the evidence painted a heart-wrenching picture that rekindled emotions thought buried. They presented the surveillance footage from the diner, magnifying Ryan's discomforting presence the night he'd met Clara. The video echoed through the courtroom, capturing the laughter that now served as a prelude to tragedy, haunting the air as those present watched the images unfold. Witnesses took the stand, recounting encounters with Clara, their words steeped in sorrow and regret. Emma felt her heart forge tighter as they spoke of Clara's radiant spirit, of how she often found joy even amid her own battles. Her closest friends shared stories of Clara's fears in the months leading to her disappearance, while the prosecution introduced chilling testimony from those who observed Ryan lurking near the diner days before Clara vanished. In a striking moment, they revealed that Clara's DNA had been found in Ryan's vehicle. The revelation landed heavily in the courtroom, drawing sharp intakes of breath from those gathered, including Emma. The image of Clara, bright and full of life, reduced to a haunting statistic, gnawed at her heart. But then came the defense's turn. Their presentation struck like a jarring chord, casting doubt on the prosecution's narrative. They emphasized Ryan's lack of a violent history, framing him as an innocent man who simply engaged in a conversation with Clara Owen that spiraled out of control only in the imagination of the prosecution. They expertly highlighted those moments of uncertainty, stoking the fears of the jury that perhaps time had obscured the truth. As days turned into tense hours, each witness weighed down with their memories. Emma felt the importance of her presence. Every glance, every shared smile from the gallery bolstered her resolve. She bore Clara's name not only as a measure of grief, but as a badge of honor that urged her to honor her friend's legacy. The trial wore on, tension rife as the defense and prosecution battled with heart and intellect. Emma clung to hope, willing the jury to see Clara, the woman behind the title of victim, ensuring that her story would be carved in the halls of justice. Finally came the day of the verdict. The atmosphere hummed with anticipation as the jury filed in, faces unreadable yet lined with the heaviness of responsibility. Emma held her breath, heart pounding, as the foreman read the verdictone that would echo in the annals of their community, signifying not only the end of a trial but also a step toward closure. Clara's spirit lingered, eager for the chance to be remembered, forever a beacon illuminating lost paths. Chapter 9. The Aftermath. The verdict hung in the air like a thick fog, settling sorrowfully over the courtroom. As the judge's gavel struck down, the finality sent ripples of emotion through those assembled. Ryan McAllister was convicted of the abduction and murder of Clara Jennings, but the gavel's echo felt insufficient to quell the grief lingering in the hearts of everyone who had come to mourn her. In the days that followed, the community grappled with the reality of Clara's absence, a shadow left in the wake of an unresolved tragedy. Emma found herself caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Relief mingled with despair, a sense of justice muddied by the deep ache of loss. Clara had been so full of life, and now the world felt colder without her vibrant spirit illuminating the corners of their lives. As the initial media frenzy began to wane, a sense of normalcy crept back into the neighborhood. Yet Clara's absence remained a constant undertone: empty chairs at potlucks, silenced laughter in the park, a palpable feeling that someone essential had been irreparably severed from them. Emma became a source of strength for others, reminding them of Clara's warmth and the importance of cherishing their memories of her. Clara's family decided to honor her legacy in a more tangible way. They spearheaded initiatives to promote mental health awareness in the community, understanding that Clara's compassion for others was one of her greatest qualities. They organized workshops, invited speakers, and collaborated with the local clinic where Clara had worked. Each event was a testament to her spirit, a way to transform grief into action. Emma often participated in these events, sharing anecdotes, watching the community's bond strengthen through shared resolve. It became a healing process for everyone, but Emma still wrestled with shadows of doubt and fear left by the trauma of Clara's fate. She volunteered time at the clinic, aiming to turn that uncertainty into a platform for understanding and support, hoping she could help others who struggled similarly. But as time wore on, the questions lingered. Had Clara sensed the darkness surrounding her connection with Ryan before it spiraled beyond recovery? Were there warning signs overlooked in the midst of daily life? These uncertainties often nagged at Emma, creating a weight she carried quietly in her heart. Amid the rebuilding, Emma found an unlikely comfort in the memories shared by others, their laughter, their stories, and the light Clara had spread in her wake. With each candle lit in her honor, each voice raised in her memory, Clara's legacy became a beacon of hope and resilience, illuminating the path for many who felt lost. Though the pain of losing Clara would never recede completely, Emma embraced the community's commitment to support each other, knowing they would carry Clara's spirit forward, ensuring no one would have to suffer in silence. In a world stained by tragedy, Clara would always serve as a reminder of the strength that comes from love, community, and the courage to forge ahead, bound together by memory. Chapter 10. Reflection. As winter drew to a close and the first hints of spring's arrival teased the horizon, Emma often found herself wandering through familiar streets, contemplating the journey of the past several months. The vibrant blooms that began to punctuate the gray days felt like whispers of rejuvenation. Yet the ache of loss nestled deep within her heart never truly faded. Each flower became a poignant contrast to the absence of Clara, a reminder that life continued even amidst heartache. Sitting on a park bench, Emma reflected on the web of connections woven tighter through adversity. Clara's memory had motivated friends and neighbors to reach out, to have conversations that mattered and discuss mental health in a world that often shied away. The community spirit shone brightly, showing Emma how the darkest of times could yield light when love and care predominated. Yet whenever she closed her eyes, Clara's laughter echoed in her mind, the memories intertwining with dreams of the future they had missed together. She missed the mundane moments, the laughter shared in quiet cafes and the comfort of friendship. It was in those fragments of serenity that Emma found solace, knowing she would forever honor Clara's memory through her actions. Embracing the promise of tomorrow, she resolved to keep Clara's spirit alive, not just within her own heart, but within the community that had come together to grieve. With every initiative, every conversation about mental health, she would carry a piece of Clara forward, ensuring that her light never extinguished. As the sun set on yet another day, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. It was bittersweet, yet it was her reality. Healing was not a linear journey, but with love and remembrance. She was navigating it as best she could each step forward, guided by Clara's enduring influence. The bond shared between them was eternal, transcending law. With a heart full of love, Emma stood up from the bench, determined to channel her energy into a future shaped by understanding and hope, cultivating a garden of strength in the name of her dear friend.